You look at a color palette, you look at a design, and you kind of do that in a box. It looks all pretty and you think it looks great. But in practicality, when you implement that on a site and then you test it for inclusivity, oftentimes they fail miserably.
You're listening to Discussing Stupid, a podcast sponsored by Hi Monkey. Join your host, Virgil Carroll, and others as our podcast helps you transform bad digital experiences into teachable moments you can use.
Last month, we finished up a process which took way too long in redoing our own Hi Monkey website. Something that needed to happen, but my staff has been very busy, so it was something that myself and Cole had to tackle kind of on our own. And it really brought back a lot of things and kind of start up, I'm going to say, as a series about rebuilding a site and everything that you do about it. So there's just a ton of topics around it, but one of the things I think is really unique about what we've done, not only for our website, but also for the Discussing Stupid website, is talking about color. And not only color from an accessibility and inclusive design standpoint, but also from the challenge that colors kind of bring into your layout and kind of getting things. And, obviously designers always want to make things very colorful and very exciting. And there's a lot of trade-offs when you start looking at inclusive design and some of that. So in today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about what some of those challenges are and kind of how we can deal with them. And some of the strategies that you can use to be able to, use color, yet at the same time make your site that inclusive site that it needs to be.
For those wondering why this is episode 13.1 and not 13, apparently 13 is a pretty unlucky number, so we decided to dodge that.
It is. Say you have a very superstitious boss that doesn't like to do things in 13, so there we go.
Well, there was certainly no 13 for Discussing Stupid season 1 because it didn't.
It never made it that far. Thank you for pointing that out yet again. Yes, I realized that I only made it to 9 episodes, but thank you.
Yep. But enough yapping. So we today are going to be talking about accessibility, but more specifically about how it applies to your brand's color palette. And so we've personally recently gone through some, kind of similar experiences with our color palette. Realizing what?
Pain.
Yeah, pain.
Yes.
We have realized that, while it's, probably a lot more fun to have a color palette with bright colors and fun colors and stuff, it's not always easy to have the text to background ratios be accessible. And that's, obviously very important. It's of the utmost importance on the web. But, anyone want to speak to how bad it is to have an inaccessible color palette?
It's bad. It's tough. I mean, right there. I mean, don't get me wrong. Of course, we've always had an accessible color palette, but and it's not even about that. It's more about how you use it. And so it's, the thing that, especially you and I going through this redesign process of our website and really digging deep into something that Chad does all the time, and us maybe, where we do the upfront stuff, don't really do the nitty gritty build work these days, or I should say I don't do them these days. And Cole has never done them. So that kind of works out. It's color to implementation. That really is what it's about. It's about, you look at a color palette, you look at a design, and you kind of do that in a box and it looks all pretty and you think it looks great. But in practicality, when you implement that on a site and then you test it for inclusivity, oftentimes they fail miserably because colors just don't work. And so you and I were talking about it, that, definitely seeing a trend out there on websites of being more monochromatic again. Bright brights, dark darks, um, to really kind of meet that standard. And you can still do a lot of really cool things from design, but it's kind of knowing that up front and the challenges that you run into. And Chad, I know you run into it with our customers all the time.
Yeah, even when they think they're, designing towards that inclusivity, accessibility, um, and the colors on a design look like they're going to be great. Um, they won't pass. They sometimes just will not pass a test for that contrast that you're looking for. Um, Especially like bright colors against white backgrounds, or those darker colors against a dark background. Even if on a design they're pretty clear as day. Um, that contrast ratio, that's what we look for. It just isn't strong enough.
Yeah, one of the things I'd say, and actually it's kind of funny, is as Cole and I were going through this redesign of the High Monkey site, um, I kind of use it as an opportunity to experiment and kind of, not only refresh and get the cobwebs off my knowledge, but also to kind of look at what's new and crazy in that. One of the things I experimented with for, I don't know, just a few days was doing font size as a percentage, which seems like a great thing until you realize that if you've got a color out there that is, and for people that don't know, usually it's like large text, small text, so it's over 24 pixels, and then it's under that. The break point there, and you put it in there, and it's compliant. But you put it in as a percentage. As soon as you start to shrink down the screen and you go with the lower screens, it becomes uncompliant very quickly. And so that's another thing that happens a lot, is that, we test it on desktop and we're like, oh, look, this is compliant. Well, the reality is, you don't use a 40-point font on a mobile phone, unless you want 3 letters per line, and that. So I immediately went there where I set specific font sizes for that exact reason, because there you can control it and say, I know this font size is compliant.
Yeah, so it's not just about, like the two colors between the text and background. It's also, how big is your font, because it might be accessible at a, pretty large font size, but as you get smaller, and also you just don't want in general really small fonts on your site. It's not a good look. But so we kind of so far have discussed the shift of a lot of websites to a more monochromatic look. But for people, kind of wondering, hey, well, I still want some color pop on my website. I don't want it to look boring. What are some ways that uh, people can still achieve that on their websites?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's important to have a theme, just like it is important to have any sort of style guide. Having a theme, having a color palette that where colors work together to complement one another, and but still limit you to keep that design consistent. It's an experience when you visit a website. Um, so you can have bright colors, you can have uh, a range of colors, but keeping them in a palette, keeping them consistent throughout the site, I think is very important, and knowing where to use them. Uh, what colors can be used on what kind of backgrounds, that kind of stuff, and what sizes, like you said, Virgil.
Well, and I think also when you say where to use them, there's using colors for decoration and there's using colors for purpose. Purpose colors, you should really never have accessibility issues. I mean, in the ideal situation, if you have a black background, you're using white text, you're never going to have an accessibility issue in that scenario. In that, so, but decorative, it's a little bit murkier. So, I mean, when you think about it, you're talking about people with it could be colorblind, or it could just be some kind of uh, different color sensitivity or something like that. From the regulation standpoint, decorative doesn't matter. and so you kind of have to balance that. So, you use it as a little accent color, as maybe an underline, and that it's that it doesn't have a purpose. And that's the most important part. It's just like when they talk about images, you can kind of have really colorful images. And for somebody that has vision challenges, they might not be able to see that. But if that image is there for a decorative means, otherwise it's just a pretty image on the page that's meant to be there to add some visual impact. You're not breaking the spirit of the rule. But if it was like a graph where it's showing multi lines at different colors to be able to show the trends on a sales projection or something, that's something that you need to be compliant, because that image has a purpose to it. Those colors have a purpose to them. They're trying to identify it. So what we try to do is not make color have a purpose. And if so, then you better make sure that it's compliant colors that have a purpose. But if it's there for decorative means, I mean, technically, okay.
Yeah. Unrelated but important. If you're tuning in and appreciating the content, please make sure to like and subscribe and follow us, because this is how we continue to do the podcast.
And
And
don't forget, people should share it as well
oh yeah, I always forget
with
that
their
one, but that's like
friends,
probably way
family,
more important.
colleagues, kids, dogs, whoever,
Hey,
for people to
I've
listen.
seen some of my kids' YouTube shows. I think you're supposed to say "smash that subscribe button."
Oh yeah,
Smash that
yeah.
subscribe
Forgive
button.
me.
Yes.
Smash that subscribe button.
Right. Yeah.
Um, yeah, kind of. The approach that we took to our website redesign was kind of leaning more towards a darker background for most of the sections and lighter background for the other sections, but kind of really using decorative images to enhance the look of a lot of pages, to make it not just look like a black and white website. I think it's looking pretty effective so far.
Wow. But we weren't 100% successful, were we? I mean, we tried using color, but like the orange or
Yeah,
okay.
I mean orange. Yeah,
Let's go back to it. Depends on who you talk to at High Monkey, whether it's orange or yellow. I'm going to go with orange because that's what I think it is. Um, but our color, that one's one there that's very difficult for us. We can use it on very large text. We can't use it on small. We can use it on as a background on very large text or very dark text in there. But that's it's a perfect example. But yeah, I mean, on our site we basically said, instead of bringing a lot of color into the site itself, um, we would bring it in through images and through colorful images, and tried to get images that were very vibrant in colors, not more muted in that, but very vibrant in colors to kind of add that contrast. So there's a lot of this isn't a bad thing for designers. There's a lot of things you can do around it. The problem is what happens is that usually most organizations' primary colors in their color palette just don't work in that. So I can think of a particular state that we've worked with many a times, and I can tell you that even though their colors are compliant, their color combinations are terrible in that. And that's just one of those things that frustrates a lot of people, because you can't use a lot of those colors well to make something visually look good, but they are compliant. So that's kind of, there's this impression out there that if you have compliant colors, you can't make them look good together in that. And so you have to be a little bit more flexible and a little bit more creative in how you do your designs.
yeah. Maybe they should just revert to the good old brown look that all those old.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, to me, and Chad and I both remember this, is where so many years the common style was blue on blue on blue. It was just different shades of blue, and none of that would work in that kind of stuff. So I've been a preacher of contrast for a really long time, even before accessibility, inclusive design really took a forefront in there. I've always said it, because it's also just easier on people's eyes when they view things. It's much easier for them to see and understand when they see contrast, that this is important, that this is different than over here. And too many designers do complementary more so, and don't really think of it from a functional standpoint. And I think that's one thing that is very good about kind of inclusive design practices, is it makes you make things very functional.
Yeah, fully agree there. I think a lot of times the functional aspect of color palettes is kind of lost, but that's what we're here for, to push that positive agenda.
That's a very good way of summing it up, Cole.
Appreciate it. Alrighty. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.
Just a reminder, we'll be dropping new episodes every 2 weeks. If you enjoyed the discussion today, we would appreciate it if you hit the like button and leave us a review or comment below. And to listen to past episodes or be notified when future episodes are released, visit our website at www.discussingstupid.com and sign up for our email updates. Not only will we share when each new episode drops, but also we'll be including a ton of good content to help you in discussing stupid in your own organization. Of course, you can also follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud, or really any of the other favorite podcast platforms you might use. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time.